If it is 61, please stand for the flag. Mr. White will lead us. To the flag of the United States. To the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay. We have a couple of presentations.
We do. We will start with Ms. Babby discussing the senior test.
Okay, and I believe everybody has a copy of our proposed itinerary at the moment. Okay, so we're taking our seniors to Philadelphia this year. This was at their request. It gave us the best opportunity to combine many things. So they're taking a little tour of the historical city that's there. They'll have the opportunity to spend a day at Ocean City, New Jersey, which last year's seniors very much enjoyed, so we opted to chat back there again. And then they'll have time on that final day to do their most favorite thing, just to hang out with each other. But if you take a look through the itinerary, we're heading away for 3 days and 2 nights, May 29th through May 31st. That impacts 2 school days, which is why I'm standing in front of you at the moment. They had permission to take them out of school for that Thursday and that Friday. To do that, we'll be leaving fairly early in the morning. I forgot, we're also heading to the Philadelphia Zoo, our reading terminal market, which if you have not been, is a lot of fun to do that. We then will be doing a walking tour to do more historical things there. You can see our hotel that we're staying in. One of the nice things about this trip is that the breakfasts and the dinners are included for each of the days. The students would just be responsible for their lunches, and we always remind them of that. We always will need spending cash to do that part of it. So then on Friday, on Friday, we're going to be headed to Ocean City, New Jersey, just basically hanging out on the beach. There will always be a group of us on the beach for the students who don't want to wander around, but then they do have the big boardwalk area to explore as well. That evening is one of the highlights of our trip, is the Spirit of Philadelphia dinner cruise, very similar to the Spirit of New York, the Spirit of Baltimore. We've done this kind of Spirit of Boston. We've done this on each of the trips that we've headed away on. And then our final day, we're going to be headed to a fun flex that's near our hotel for some exploration there. And then actually to medieval times dinner and tournament, which both Mr. Chaldone and I are excited to be going to, because neither of us have attended this, and it sounds like it would be fun. And hopefully our students will enjoy it as well too. We won't have our parents out too late. We'll be back by 9:30 that Saturday. And the total price for this is going to be $749 per student. These seniors have been phenomenal fundraisers. We do have several of them who have paid for most of the trips. The popcorn fundraiser, thank you to anyone who supported that. That does very well for them. There will be a $200 deposit due in January. Unfortunately, we're late. Our new tour person, our old gentleman retired, took a little bit to get this pulled together. She did kind of do it for us rather than a standard package tour, so we're a little behind the schedule. What else was there? $749, the $200 deposit. Oh, and we do have one more fundraiser in January, so they will have another opportunity to raise some more funds, which we try very hard to do. That's the information that I have. What are your questions for me? And Mr. Nicotero always has questions.
The first thing that comes to my mind, and it's always, I should ask after the trip, but what percentage of the senior class attends?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So we have, last year we had, I'm going to say like 72 or so seniors that I would describe as eligible to attend. And then we had a full bus. We had, close to be a 50, I think we had 52 seniors. We have a significant number of students who come with us. It's fairly well attended. I remember my very first trip, I went to New York City with 13 students. We haven't done that in a very long time. So a lot of them come and they enjoy themselves, and they then tell the juniors and they then usually it's me.
And how about for those who don't come? What give us a reason or two. What do you hear?
Okay, sometimes it has to do with finances. That's always the case. Sometimes it's how to describe it. It just doesn't appeal to them. It's just simply not something that they're interested in. Different people like to do different things. Some people like to play sports, some people like to play drama, not to play drama, to do drama. It's just, we're not able to capture everyone. We get better attendance in that way to our picnic, which we do at the end of the year. That's like $40 as opposed to $749, and it's only you're only committing to going, an hour away as opposed to, I have to sleep 2 to a bed with 4 people in a room and I'm away from home. Like I remember me as a high school senior, that would have been, oh my goodness, I'm heading away. So I think that that's part of it as well too. To do.
Ms. Babby, I guess
Yes, sir.
I'm thinking about the students that may not be able to afford it.
Mhm.
Curious, I know it varies based on their fundraising efforts and all that,
Yes.
but $750.
Yeah, basically 750.
So out of the fundraising, do you know like what percent of, is there an average of what percent of that money is coming from fundraising? $750.
I know I have students, the way our fundraising works, they raise money as a class, but we give them credit based on how much they've done. So if we made the class a profit of $600, that money, so to speak, credit, I should say, is yours to spend on things. I do think I have a gentleman who has his entire trip paid for. Let me see if I can think in my head. Of those eligible to come, maybe a third of our students have most of this taken care of, where maybe mom, dad, whoever are gonna be paying $120 or so. They did really well, these guys, this last time around. Are there some who are gonna be paying the full shot if they're coming? Absolutely, yes. Yes, and this is the struggle that we have every year. And we do go into, we don't go into freshman seminar classes, but we talk to the freshman class advisors. The class advisors are very good in terms of working with us, really pushing those fundraisers. There have been years when we have gone into the meetings at the beginning of the year to say, this is what your senior year is going to cost you. It can easily cost mom and dad over $1,000 to do this kind of thing. So we can try to encourage it, but it's like your past self doesn't always really understand what your future self is going to be, especially when you're young. But we're always open to more suggestions. I can't say that we will not take suggestions or tell Julia to sell the chocolate this time.
Yeah, he does. We end up buying too much.
Yeah, you can see that. Other questions that people
You
have?
mentioned that the students chose Philadelphia. What were the other options?
Oh, gosh, that's a great question. I think we had Boston as an option, New York City as an option, and then Baltimore as an option as well too. This, Ocean City, Maryland is a lovely place to go. This is a shorter drive, which is why this space, it's gonna take us, oh gosh, 5 hours to get home rather than close to 7 hours to get home.
Yeah.
And they all worry about who am I gonna be with in the room. You spend very little time in the room. It's who are you sitting next to on the bus that you wanna care about, so.
So you mentioned the time distance like for travel. And
Yes.
I think that there's a stipulation, yes, that it has to be within so many hours drive or, mile radius.
Yeah.
Is Washington DC outside of that radius?
No,
Because
we've been to Washington DC
Yeah.
before. We went 1 year. I love Washington DC. There's so much there that is free and fun and historical and educational. It's hard to get to the beach. It's the trip, we tailor our trip to what our students are interested in. We try to balance that history, things that are interesting. We want to expose you to new things, but we also want to make it fun too. So you're gonna walk around Philadelphia with us and you're gonna see these things. You're gonna learn this stuff. You're gonna go to the zoo, but then the next day we're gonna go have fun to do. So. And we always do a survey at the beginning of the year. So when it's Stella's turn, she'll get a survey from Mr. Sheldon. Here are some options, what are you interested in? And then go from there. Shopping is always hot.
I don't think you're gonna want to see her.
I'm gonna be curious. I'll ask her about it tomorrow when I see her.
Do you
Yes,
turn
sir.
anybody away ever?
What's that?
Is it, how many people is the
Is there
maximum?
a cap?
The
Like, how do
bus,
they pick if somebody people over?
it's like 50-52. We have not ever had to say to someone, you
You
can't
can't
come.
go.
Have there been times when we've gotten nervous? Yes, but there's been a year when we did 2 buses.
I
we did
think, yes, I remember.
That was the year Ron came with us. 2015, we went to Boston with 2 buses. Then you don't have to worry about who's sitting next to you, that plane.
2019?
Oh, maybe. Maybe there were 2 buses.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, I was just, with the amount, I can't imagine it's gonna be 2 buses.
I would love for there to be 2
Yeah,
buses.
yeah,
That would be
right,
wonderful
yeah.
to have that.
Right.
Fantastic. We want them all. What other questions do you guys have? I always appreciate questions. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you, Ms. Babby. All right, and here to talk about the ski club trip. Oh,
Prior to planning this trip, I sent out interest survey kind of thing with parents, and I've gotten so far that 31 students are interested in attending this trip that are involved with ski club. We would like to go to Smuggler's Notch, which is in Vermont. It's about a 5-hour drive. Smuggler's Notch is a village. I've read about it. I've never been there. I've talked to people who've been there. Everything we need is within this village. All of the lodging, restaurants, a country store, like a convenience store, skiing, everything is walking from one area to the other. Under the trip details, it also mentions other activities that they have. There's an indoor pool access, ice skating, tubing, there's an arcade, which is their fun zone. And then there's other village activities that they have on various days. So if you kind of go to their website and you put in, we're gonna be there Saturday night, all of these things pop up, and some are included and some cost extra. I plan to stay within the included area. The way it's explained to me is that the children have access to walk to any destination that they wish. I think I'm planning on keeping it a little more structured. And I'll get to that in the itinerary, which actually is next. We would like to leave Friday, March 7th, after school. So the kids would go home, they would get all the things that they need and come back to school. And I would like to board the bus about 3 o'clock and depart. We should arrive at 8 o'clock on Friday evening. Unfortunately, when we get there, all of the fun things like tubing and ice skating will be closed. So our plan is to go out to the village pizzeria and sit and dine and go back to our rooms and relax for the next day. I also plan to stop at the country store because all of our rooms, I should say, they're like condominiums. They have a little kitchenette where kids can cook their own lunches if they want, so they can pick up anything that they might need at that little country store, which, like I said, is a convenience store. So if they want mac and cheese and milk and cereal, they can get all that there. The next page in the back, on Saturday, we'll wake up bright and early. They'll eat in the rooms, or they can eat at the lodges if they wish to pay for breakfast. And then we will head over to skiing at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's been a full day outside. At a particular time in the day, the students can choose to either eat lunch in the lodge on their own, which will cost extra for them, or there will be a set time where one of the chaperones will be available to walk the kids back to their rooms where they can make their own lunch and relax for an hour or two, and then we will walk them back. The way Greek Peak, not Greek Peak, Smuggler's Notch, sorry, I'm getting on trip mixed up. The way Smuggler's Notch describes it is that children have no access to room keys, so they cannot get into the rooms without a chaperone present. So one of our chaperones has to go with them at all times if they want to go back to their room. So that would be including lunch. And then we would ski until 4 o'clock, go back to the rooms and relax and get ready for dinner. And we would go out to their mountain grill for dinner that evening, which again is right in the village. It's kind of like Applebee's is how it's explained to me. The pizzeria and the mountain grill are extra costs for families, so meals are not included at all. Unless, like I said, they bring their own food, which they can on the bus, bring their own food from home to cook in the rooms. And then that evening, they'd be free to either go swimming in the pool, go tubing, or go ice skating. And I kind of want to limit what they do so I can have easy chaperone access to all destinations or keeping an eye on them. But they would be free to go to any of those 3 destinations. On Sunday, it's basically a repeat of the ski day. They would wake up, eat, we'd head over to skiing from 8 until 4. I believe we've lose access to our rooms, but I'm not 100% sure on that because this is my first trip. But if we do, if we're not able to go back to our rooms for lunch, they'd have to eat at the lodges at the base of the hill. At 4 o'clock, we would depart from the resort, and I do think that we might have to make a pit stop on the way home for maybe some snacks and dinner, like maybe a fast food place. That to be decided at this point. And then hopefully we would return around 9 p.m. for parent pickup on Sunday. The cost of the trip is basically $299 for the lodging, 2 days of skiing, and all of the extra activities that they have. That does not include food. And then we would have to divvy up the cost of the transportation. So I have a 38 passenger charter bus from
Hale?
Hale, thank you, Susan Hale. I was trying to remember her first name because it would have flowed right off of that. That would be $6,600. We would have to tip the driver, about $100. And then we would have to pay for the driver's resort, which, my point of contact at Smuggler's Notch books the driver's hotel at a different destination, so the cost is a little bit lower, so that's $300. And then we would have to add in the cost of 2 chaperones. I get 1 chaperone comped for every 20 skiers. And then we would need at least 2 more chaperones if we plan to bring 30 to 31 students. That would be divided up between 30 students, so that extra cost would be an additional about $253 estimated. So the total trip would be $553 per student. I think I covered everything. 3 chaperones would be attending. Obviously, I've already discussed with parents the safety precautions there are with skiing, and all parents need to be on call because if a child gets hurt and has to go to a hospital in Vermont, a parent has to come to Vermont to get them. So I've already pre-warned all the parents on that and gave them all those guidelines. But obviously, every resort we go to, including Smuggler's Notch, has ski patrol. They can bandage and first aid students enough to get on a bus to drive home if it's not a serious injury. It's a serious injury. That's the hospital. So. Any questions?
This is the first trip of this magnitude, right?
This is the first trip for skiing.
Can I offer a couple of suggestions?
Sure,
I'm familiar with the area.
you are.
I think leaving at 3 o'clock could work against you with some inclement weather and darkness. I would approach the superintendent and see if you could leave at least an hour and a half earlier.
Okay,
I just,
that's a good suggestion.
you don't want to pull in there at 10 o'clock at night. And
No.
come back, and then the kids.
We
go.
would miss out on dinner too.
You lose so much. And then the second thing, is there a 4-hour pass for Sunday or half-day pass for Sunday?
Sunday would be a full day, full 8 to 4 pass, it's a full day pass, it's all included.
But do they need to ski for?
We don't need to ski that all those hours.
So can they get a 4-hour pass and you're on the road by, say, 2 o'clock?
Maybe I have to.
Just a
look into it.
suggestion.
Yeah, I have to look into it.
I know some of the areas have a 4-day Sunday pass, but not all of them. You could ask there.
Yeah.
And they're very good with groups. They're outstanding with groups, but
Yeah.
wherever you can save and bring that cost down a little bit. I don't know how many kids are gonna ski 2 full days, Saturday and Sunday.
It's a lot more than we usually do.
Bigger amount.
Yeah,
So just a possibility, if you can, I would depart earlier and I would depart from there earlier, just to, driving in here on a March night at 11 o'clock or later. Yeah, I think that's a good possibility.
good suggestion.
Once you get to Burlington, you're like this.
Yeah.
It's mountain driving, you're not gonna do, even with a bus. You catch a little squall or something, you're gonna crawl up that hill, it's gonna take an hour. Just suggestion.
So I know that this is the first trip of this magnitude, so is there any plan for fundraising? I just think of parents who might have multiple kids, so if this is going to be a parent fully funded excursion and you have 2 kids, you're paying $1,200 plus food. So
I have
that's,
2 kids, so yes,
Yeah.
I understand that.
so,
Unfortunately, we're not officially a club. So what I've been told, and maybe the business person over here can help me out, that I have no bank account and I can't collect and store money for parents. I think it's kind of unethical for me to. I don't know, save the money on my own, or even if a parent were to give the money, I don't know how, you know, where the line is drawn on that, but technically, I don't think I'm allowed to fundraise. Am I? That's what I've been
So,
told.
what's the rule on that?
No, that's, there's not.
I'm not a club.
Okay, how do we make it? a
We need an advisor.
So it's just.
I mean, it's kind of horrible.
You can pay as the advisor.
Yeah.
You're
Say that
saying,
again?
aren't you appointed by us?
I am a middle school ski club advisor, not a high school. And even if the middle school doesn't have a bank account either, so even though we are officially a club in the middle school, I don't think I'm able to fundraise at that level either. Sounds right? I don't have a bank account, and I'm a treasurer. I don't know what the guidelines.
Look into that.
Yeah. If you're. I know that.
Well, does high school considered, there's no official advisor for it.
You said there's 30 kids that said they're in or they want.
31, yes.
Is that the entire club or?
There's about 58 high school children signed up to receive information about the individual trips, so you know, out of that 58, 31 said that they would be interested in this trip.
And then I'm just, I guess a follow up, I'm just thinking about a lot of them probably have never skied or even close to that. So.
Many of them have been to Gore,
Okay. yeah,
so
of course.
Gore is pretty, and then before we go on this trip, they would have had the opportunity to go to Macaulay, January 4th. There's a new one.
They went to Greek seats 1 year.
We're not doing Greek Peak.
Well, they did. but-
They did, yeah,
That one
Greek Peak
is,
is bad luck. So I switched it to a different location and it's out near Rochester. It's a pretty big resort. Bristol Mountain, thank you. And then we will also have done Gore, all by February. The beginning of February.
Just because I skied a lot when I was in high school, I was a maniac skiing. So I don't want kids to get hurt, you know, just like.
I think it's just them getting lost, so by then they would have practiced the bigger mountains and the lifts and the trail maps, which I usually, for all these large trips, I download the trail map and I tell them to upload it to their phone. So they have it, if the map flies out of their hand, which has happened. Or if they don't have service, they can't access the map, so I make them count.
Yeah, it's stress, to be smart, I guess. The parents are gonna want to drive.
No, no.
I guess we have to use too.
All right, well, so.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Very much.
This is high school.
Okay,
I won't take middle school.
Mr. State. Middle school. What about state
That's the
subcommittee
one.
reports?
Yeah, sure. So, School Boards Institute, so a couple weeks ago, Mr. Reed, Mr. Nicotera,
Mr. Secco.
Mr. Secco, and I attended the SBI meeting at BOE. And it was, they had Regent Patrick Mannion, so he's a board of regent, actually visited our school a few weeks ago, and we gave a short tour. But anyway, he was the speaker at this meeting, and he discussed some of the new graduation measures, zero bus admissions initiative, foundation aid, teacher improvement, tax levy, cap adjustments, some of the hot topics that are being discussed at the state level currently. He didn't really have any new information, just, you know, briefed us on what the governor and the state department are currently considering as far as, you know, what's coming down next for schools in the state. But again, just gave us some updates. So that was that subcommittee. And then the policy committee, we met last time right before the board meeting. And so those policies will be up for approval tonight. And then we tabled tonight's meeting. And so we rescheduled that for January 14th before the next board meeting. And then Stu, and I think I mentioned this before, we're going to schedule the curriculum instruction meeting with the principals, and we've got some great data to share with you regarding our students. And that is it for subcommittee reports.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Sure. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cowan, who just wants to briefly talk about the upcoming budget.
And you have this information in front of you.
I will share it just because it's a little bit easier. People follow if they want to at home, yes. There are no numbers on the information that you have in front of you. Just mostly talking about the process is what we're going to talk about. It's really only scheduled for 4 board meetings that we will do budget discussions this year. It won't start until February, so if you turn to the first page. Or not. Turn to the first page, you can kind of see the schedule that has been developed preliminarily. The 4 dates that are in green are board meeting dates. And basically, I finally come to the realization after many years of doing this that you guys don't really care for me to tell you, this is how I came up with the salary number, that there's 72 people in this and this. You want to see, this is what the budget is, this is what the impact is to our taxpayers, to our school programs. And that's where we'll start on the first meeting in February. By then, we will have had the governor's budget run, so we'll have at least the first swing at what our state aid will be. You know, there's been the study from the Rockefeller Center on foundation aid. We'll see if she takes any of that into consideration. Hopefully she will, but it'll be a little bit more meaningful than when we typically do that first meeting in mid-January before the governor has presented the budget. And we're just kind of looking in the dark at things. So from there, you know, we'll then have another meeting, the next 2 meetings in March. We'll kind of look at our revenues. And really the next slide is how I kind of have it outlined that these meetings will go. The first meeting, we'll look at a preliminary budget in the programmings and the services that we have this year and what that would cost. We would then add to that any new initiatives, any services that the administration or that the board would like to see cost for included in the 25-26 budget. After we do that, we'll have again that preliminary revenue number. We'll throw that up there. We'll look at what our tax cap number is and looking at state aid, tax cap, and some miscellaneous revenues, and then that rolled over budget plus any initiatives and services that are requested. Where will that leave us for a budget? Most likely at a deficit, you know, at a gap at that point in time. So there's some discussion that the board can have at that meeting. The second meeting, we'll get into the revenues a little bit more. We'll talk about the foundation aid, the tax cap. I don't know if the board, what their thoughts are on exceeding the tax cap for 25-26, but something to start thinking about now. We can briefly talk about it probably in January. I'll have preliminary run of what the tax cap number will be. Now, again, it'll probably be between 2 and 2.4%, somewhere in there. Now, this year, we did go up 5.5%, if you recall, which did exceed the tax cap. Foundation aid, we'll see again what the governor has taken into consideration, if anything, from her stance last year, where basically she froze our aid, our biggest piece of aid at the level that it was for 23-24 is the same for this year, 24-25. Today, Mr. Staten got information from NISCUS that showed, you know, the current law run of our aids. Some were up mainly because of formulas that stayed the same based on projections, but the one that was concerning at this point in time, though not unexpected, I guess, is that foundation aid is the same for us in 25-26 if the law stays the same for foundation aid. We'll then look at also our fund balance. You know, where do we stand with that? Projections for this year, I've started to put together, as I have indicated, you know, we plan to reappropriate it a little bit more for 25-26. So we were over $1 million for this year. We didn't receive all the state aid that we had anticipated. We kind of knew that was going to happen, so we made some cuts as the 24-25 budget was being developed and implemented. And I'll talk about them in a minute here. And so we can take a look at where we are with fund balance. What do we want to look at doing with that in 25-26? And the other revenues, I just want to briefly talk about them. We got to the end of the budget process for 24-25, and we had rental income. And we received rental income from BOCEs as well as some other individual organizations. But we had anticipated UCP that has had 3 classrooms with us for a number of years, as well as Head Start, Mohawk Valley Community Action, that has rented 1 classroom for us that I think was in May or maybe even June before they told us that they were not going to have programs in this year that we're in. So budgeted approximately $40,000 that it was removed. So just some things that we will, talk about as we go through the second meeting. Third meeting, we would come with recommendations from administration of this is what we think we need to do to present a budget based upon whatever tax level that the board is comfortable with presenting to the community. This is what we think we will need to do with the budget for 25-26. Be a lot of discussion on that, I'm sure. And some back and forth and, whatever information is needed as each of these meetings are presented. And if there's other information requested by the board, I'll bring that at that meeting as well. That would be the third meeting. Hopefully on April 8th, we would be able to present a budget that the board would be willing to approve to present to the community. If not, we could go one more week on April 15th. That is in red on your sheet in front of you because that wrong page. Because that is not a scheduled meeting, but we could have that if we don't have everything settled by April 8th. Other dates on here, yellow, are dates for us to make sure that we have things submitted to the newspaper, to SCD, wherever the case may be. Okay. Then the next page, I probably can't get back there because I don't know what I'm doing. One way. That's what I thought. We'll
Gotta go back to
this. So this is primarily the level that I would present the information to the board. There's about 8 categories here from salaries and benefits, BOCES, et cetera. I won't get into, again, the details of the salary. This much is for SRP. This is our instructional, unless that's requested by the board. But really, I'd like to keep it at this level. And then we will present to you recommendations that we might need to do to reach a budget and present to the community. So again, this year that you're looking at is this 24-25 budget, which was proposed and adopted and approved by the community. And this will be the format that it would be in. And then from there, when we have that gap, the next slide there will be the areas that we'll look at. What will really happen to state aid from that first meeting in February? Will it go up? Will it go down? Hopefully there will be a budget adopted by April 8th or before that, so that we can plug those numbers into that board meeting information. We can talk about the tax cap. I will plug in a number that represents the tax cap at the beginning of the budget process, and the board can have their discussion. Recommendations for what we will do with expenditures from administration as well as the board will be a reconciling item, and then what we would want to do with fund balance, if anything, from where we start. And I will probably start with that $1,077,000 that we built into the appropriated budget for this year, the appropriated fund balance for the budget for this year. So, kind of the process. This next slide, which is next steps, which is really just a slide from last year, looks at some of the things when we finished adopting our budget on April 16th, I believe it was. We knew that we did not have an adopted budget at the state level yet, so we still had a $400,000 gap. We adopted a budget that said we're going to get additional foundation aid. We did not get additional foundation aid. Without getting that, this information from the April 2nd meeting said we can look at eliminating several of these items or taking reductions in several of these areas to reconcile that budget. We did take some of these items. We eliminated a teacher assistant, a teacher aide, one reading teacher, et cetera, the items that are highlighted in red. So after the budget was adopted, the state adopted their budget, we didn't receive the full amount of state aid that we had budgeted, not so much anticipated, because we were fearful that we were not going to get that money. But with that, we had a plan of how to still have a reconciled or a reasonable budget. Those were some of the cuts that have occurred in 24-25. So I expect we'll probably be looking at something. Hopefully there will be an adopted state budget ahead of April 8th. Hopefully some of the recommendations for foundation aid will be favorable to Sequoia Valley and we can build them into our budget. But in all cases, we can expect that our expenditures will grow at a higher rate than what our revenues will from the state, as well as, if we stick with the tax cap for our community tax for the taxpayers. That is kind of the process. Are there any questions? Are there any thoughts on changing that process or adding to it from the board at this time?
I think you're right, yeah.
And everything is fluid as we move through. The last slide, any questions, homework? The April 2nd board meeting from last year kind of is the foundation for where we are today. I think if you have the chance to review that board meeting, they'll kind of know, will tell you why we're in the position we are today, and it'll be good when we start the budget process. With these things. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cowan. For the superintendent's report.
Interesting. Okay, we'll move on to old business. We do bus rebate and incentive program.
Sure. So Mr. Cowan and I and Adam Crosby met with some representatives from Cornish Technology first, and they're the ones who conduct an audit of our site. They conduct a site visit to discuss the possibilities of bringing the chargers and all the equipment related to electric vehicles, electric busing. So they did that recently, and then we reached out to Christina Goossens at Leonard Bus, who gave us updated information. So this is the round 4 of the EV bus rebate programs. So we need to just discuss this again and, actually, I guess, determine if we want to pursue this option again. So there's the Clean School Bus Rebate Program and School Bus and Charger Initiative Program. And essentially, they would allow us to obtain a bus at the cost of an electric bus at the cost of a diesel bus. And as I said, we would get the equipment at reduced prices as well. So it's just something that we need to at least consider, because if we're going to pursue this, the deadline of January 9th to get applications. I know we talked about it before, but I just want to give you a little more information and then you did what's happening. So if this is a route we want to go. Cornish Technology representatives, they recommended that we at least pursue this because of the cost right now to, as I said, secure electric bus at the cost of the diesel bus. And they said, just go ahead and get one, see how you like it through technology, explore the options of the bus, and make a determination after working with bus for a year.
What was the
Sorry, the cost of being comparable to diesel, that includes installing and charging them.
Yeah, well, the bus itself, yeah, so we get discounted rates on the chargers and everything.
Yeah.
But the bus itself, because of the rebate,
Right.
incentives would cost the same.
And then I may have asked for like a building, you can fit an EV bus in the bus garage.
So we're we're not sure yet. We're supposed to be borrowing a bus from Leonard Bus, bring it down, drive it around, because the concern right now is the height. The wheels, correct me if I'm wrong, the tires on the electric buses are a little bit bigger than a typical bus.
Yeah.
And so right now we've got about 2-inch leeway in our garage right now for our buses. So we're supposed to be bringing the electric bus to campus to see what.
Is there any way to have a landscape evaluation done to ensure that electric buses can reach every student in our area, in our district, especially in inclement weather?
Oh, yeah, but they've done that, and they showed that there are a couple of routes that right now it can't. But and that's why they said right now they would just recommend just getting the one bus and then use that on a route that is compatible with the distance.
So when I.
Nice to reach out.
Yeah, most of the routes right now could be covered by electric bus. In fact, I think there's one right now that's just problematic, but again. The timeline, which might be changed, but right now it's not. We need to start purchasing them in 2027, have full capacity at 2035. So they said by the time those years roll around, there'll be new technology, longer bus availabilities.
Any other schools want to take advantage of this?
None that we're aware in this area.
Maybe it's Pompey is the only one. I think they've had them for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's not cool. It is not, but.
So no one else in the 3 counties has applied for this grant to date, and we don't know.
I don't believe so. I think Adirondack had. To purchase approval, as we did a year ago. We had approval, we could have done this, decided not to. And Adirondack did the same thing a year. We said, not interested right now.
You said this is the fourth. Because on the first one, they said, take it or leave it.
Because
And
no
there's
one's,
the second one, there's the third one, there's the fourth one, there's gonna be a fifth one, probably gonna be a sixth. I mean, that's just me. I mean, you don't run that, but I just was.
if we have a January 9th deadline, if we initiate the process that we're interested, we can negate that at any time?
Yes, we did this past year and we followed the same process.
They're not committed to spend the money. If they work on it.
So I believe at this point, why? Because I think last year she submitted the application, we were approved, and then
We didn't like that.
And she was what, so it made it smart to. go through the process, even though some people do that, but to go through the process.
well, I think it's smart to go forward with the process if there's, possibility that we're gonna.
Make sure that it fits.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable moving forward with this if we can't fit it.
So.
Because then that's not just purchasing an electric bus at a diesel rate, and that's not just, a sale on whatever the materials are, the equipment and the supplies that we need. If we can't fit it in there, then obviously this is a much larger scale operation that we would have to figure out.
And I'm not
Right now, I'm
negative
saying-
against it, I mean, we're gonna get this EV bus we can't use. I mean, I remember before they said, well, if we can't fit it in the garage, we can do something out back with it. And kind of do a makeshift situation and kind of charge it, because I remember Adam at the time had said it wouldn't fit. And we were talking about it when we had that subcommittee, so I'm just kind of going by what was kind of.
Right, we could park, if we had to, we could park it outside. I mean, there are some districts that don't have bus garages, and I'll
Right.
leave this.
We park the one, but then we get a second one,
Well, I think
and then we put that one out there too.
we got solar with that, just to see. And this is a trial, right? This
Right.
is an experiment.
You could be looking at having to revamp that whole bus garage to fit everything in, and there's not much more property to go with.
Right.
I mean, you can't knock that down and rebuild
Also
that.
having to do any kind of work on EV bus if it doesn't. do
Right,
anything,
we
certainly not
can't sit
maintenance.
out there and
Right.
kind of degree weather.
And also
servicing the
financially, I mean,
parking
we
lot.
just piggybacked off of the budget meeting and, it's New York State who provides and takes away funding and then is also pushing us to purchase EV
We're not
buses.
gonna give you
Maybe
additional
we
money
should wait
3
and see
years
what
in
the
a row, but
funding
also do
looks like
this.
before we make it.
Well, this would be a replacement of the 2 buses we buy per year, right?
Yeah, we probably do one diesel and
One.
we would certainly buy 2 buses, either 2 diesel or a diesel. Right.
Charlie, at what point last year did we say no? That we didn't, as Patty said, we have too many unanswered questions.
Yeah,
If we said yes to the paperwork to initiate the process,
we can do that.
we have how long to say no now?
I think right up until the board approves a referendum for the community, which I'm gonna say is in February. There's a date where I'll bring to you, this is the resolution to present the referendum to the community to approve the 2 buses. They vote on the budget, they vote on 2 buses. When we have that referendum, we certainly don't want to say 2 buses at this cost. And by the way, one of them's not diesel, we want to make that clear ahead of time. We don't want to try to be.
Is 2 months time enough time to answer some of the questions that the community may have? I mean, we're expressing ourselves, but the community has questions, so can we hear from the community? What are their questions? And can we get answers before February withdraws? Can't this 2 months enough time? Is that pressing for you? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not being critical of Adam. Well, he doesn't know if the bus is gonna fit. We can't apply with an answer that, well, we don't know.
Yeah.
We have to find out, logistically, does it fit? Yes or no, and what are the measurements? We can't tell an application, well, we don't know. I'm sorry, I mean, I think we need concrete answers to good questions and then make a decision.
And that's what Cornice is doing the study for us, and they were here and looked at a bus garage, and they basically said, you got enough power to do 1 bus, I think. you really can't even, with the, electricity that we have going into our school, bus garage, we couldn't do two right now. And, but then they said, have Leonard bring the bus here because it doesn't fit. It's too much of a difference.
As long as you have to do that,
That's the plan.
if they do have to do that, so.
Yeah, I don't know the time.
Yeah, I don't know the timeline, but I'll check again, that tomorrow. See. All right, if you posted one.
But here's my question. Are we meeting before January 9th?
No, we're.
Meet again.
We're not. So we need to give you direction on what we're gonna do come January 9th. Am I right?
And if we, the community, if we want to get, at least make them aware, how do we make them aware? Like, right now, right, that we're considering this.
Yeah, it's a roll of the dice because we can't have our bus referendum go down. We need two buses. If you tell them one's an electric, they just say, that's not, we're not ready for that. We don't want an electric bus and support, then we're in a bad spot.
There's a really good chance that that's gonna happen, because I don't know many people that would buy a car that can't get them everywhere in their town.
So you're saying if the referendum gets voted down on one electrical, one diesel, we get zero?
We've always put them as a package. We said, you know, a total amount. So, I mean, I guess we can separate them.
Or we could go back out.
Yeah.
And what we've got.
Let's go back. I think we need to make a decision. Do we want Charlie and Dave to proceed? And that's nothing more than the logistics of January 9th.
Of if you decide that you want to, then. both
Pursue.
of you are giving the thumbs up for now.
But at any time, up until February, as this data comes in, that it fits, it doesn't fit, whatever the other questions are, once we receive those answers, we can say yes or no up until a certain day of February. Okay. So let's survey the board. Do you want Charlie and Dave to proceed with a paper initiative come January 9th?
So what you're saying is proceed with the application, not
Only,
necessarily the evaluation.
Right.
The evaluation is fully separate from the application.
Yes,
It's happening at the same time, currently, we're
Right.
getting information.
Patty, what do you think?
I say no.
Mike?
I want to support, yeah, I'm support to do the application.
Ron?
No,
I'm out.
Michael? Abstain?
No, I'm no.
Oh, you're not?
Yeah, no.
Okay, I'm gonna say we proceed. Paperwork on
So time,
Three.
fee-based time.
And now,
it's tabled,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
So if we don't meet before January 9th, we go nowhere
doing nothing.
unless we call a special meeting.
That's fair.
Okay,
And can I just say one more thing? I think it's important that the community is aware that this is a conversation. It's not going away.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people are paying attention to this, like, I see it, but, you know, how do we, maybe this is just a food for thought question, but how do we make them aware that this is coming, whether it's this year, next year?
So we can craft messages, put out on Parent Square, on our social media, and next news reviews that's coming up.
I think people know it's coming, Mike. I don't think they know how close it's coming.
I know, that's the thing, like,
Like,
Well,
and the regulations could change.
2027,
Right, that all could change, but I mean, it's eventually, it's going to happen, whether it's 5 years from now, 2 years from now, this is happening.
but remember the meeting we went to, that question came up. And the region said there's a very good chance this is gonna be postponed.
well,
Not-
you have
not-
different EPA, you have a lot of different things that are gonna change. But you have states' rights stuff too, so I can't speak on it.
We may have a year or two beyond their target date to make a decision.
And then there's always my question. And what if we don't?
Well, we're gonna mess with the 80 eventually, right?
They're messing with the aid anyway.
That's what.
I think that the manufacturer won't be able to sell us for anything but electric buses at some point. And you know, what Cornice has said is, one, you've got 24 buses, one is a test bus. We expect that people are not in favor of it, but let's get one here and see what it is really like. doesn't fit in the bus garage. Don't have a good way to charge it out here, and it's done before we even get started. If we can make it work logistically, I guess my position would be, let's get one here. I do recognize that most of the community probably is not in favor of even getting one here to see what it's all about, you know? I do think that could be a detriment to us 3, 4, 5 years from now, whenever that day comes, when they do say, you are buying this.
Because it'll come at a ton of bricks and us.
Because even if boards vote no, the state, we have to. Like, we can all vote no, and they're gonna be like, yeah, whatever, you're buying one.
Proceed.
So Charlie earlier mentioned the Rockefeller Institute that conducted an analysis on the foundation aid on a lot of aid, and their recommendation to the state was that the state fully support funding for all this initiative. That, yeah, we'll go to EV route, but the state pays for it. not the
Right.
district.
And the bus garage renovations and all the other things.
And Charlie, was it that meeting, at a meeting I recently heard, somebody, I believe they stated that New York State is now telling all municipalities to have, like, for example, at least one snowplow has to be electric.
Well, they tried that in the city, so they've dropped that, because they tried that downstate with plows.
With the small amounts, so
Correct.
that they get.
So, I mean, I would hate to think it's like, here's this bus, here's this stuff. Oh, well, wait, what about this? Oh, that's not a part of the cost, but we have to eat that. I mean, we're in a precarious position.
What does that mean for the SUV that we have? Do we also have to switch that to electric?
I don't think it
It's
is
part
time.
of the fleet,
Yeah.
Right.
Bus.
Right, eventually, but I think right now it's 60 passenger race heavy, but
I think the probability of getting any funding for this is comical, because all of the schools were forced to change their mascots if it was something that was questionable, and there was zero financial assistance for that. And that, you know, certainly is not the magnitude of electric buses, but that's a cost that schools had to try to figure out how they were gonna maneuver around. So if we can't even get the state to help us with new uniforms, so we don't have an Indian on them, I'm definitely not gonna hold my breath.
And these are large financial purchases with no information.
Right, and that's the thing, it's so difficult to sit here and even try to make an educated decision, because there's nothing educated about it.
Right.
The fact that they don't even have a solid timeline, that's why I stand so firm in my adamant no, because I need something solid. This is not like like, we're gonna change the color of our front door. I mean, this is a monumental change and a huge cost. And if I don't have a solid, you know, this is the way it's going to happen and this is how it's going to work and it can be supported, it is just way too much of a risk. It's way too many unanswered questions that I'm just not comfortable saying yes to. And I get the financial, you know, part of it, where you say, you know, don't wanna lose out on getting that, it's like a third of the price or something, right? Or almost a third of the price. So I get not wanting to miss out on that, but at the same token, if we can't accommodate it, or we are not equipped to be able to, you know, to service and to charge and to have that electric bus operating, well, I mean, and that money that we just saved, it didn't help us at all. You know, it's so uncertain, and that's why it makes it so difficult to, you know, have any favor toward it right now.
Well, reach out to Adam tomorrow, see if we have an estimate on when we're gonna get one of these onto our campus, and then maybe we consider inviting Christine Lucen to on our bus board meeting. These certain more on this.
Where is she on again?
Leonard bus.
Kind of like our bones of the electric bus.
I think so.
I said, yeah, there you go.
But they're plugged in though, they are.
No, I'm sure, I'm a hater today, I'm sorry.
But
No
No, you're not.
disrespect to the crowd, but, you know, nothing the state says, they're not honest about anything.
Mike,
So-
go ahead.
I'll say there, because I'm involved, I go to all these different conferences with the NIA Association for Transport Bedford. This is an agenda topic, and I sit in the room and listen to stay that, talk to the constituents, Adam goes, but the transportation directors. And, you know, there is smoke and mirrors and all that going on, but I guess the point is Leonard Sales and New York Bus Sales, these guys are all in the room and they know what we. They should be at the meeting, hopefully, help us understand.
Good.
I would love to hear that information. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're in there, giving the pulse, because that's important.
Couple other topics, I'm sorry, on whole
Absolutely.
business. I just want to recognize, so at the recent Genesis Group Celebration of Education, we had 3 teachers, and thank you to the board members that were able to attend. 3 teachers were recognized: Jamie Cordino, Beth Ann Nora, and Kyle Hutchinson. So we posted that information on our website and social media outlets, and we commend those teachers for their work and recognition. Just want to remind you, on Thursday, we are hosting a legislative breakfast actually right in this room. So area superintendents and some of our legislators, including Assemblyman Brian Miller, will be here. And it's just a, you know, it's a thank you to our legislators for the work that they do at the state level to support. So as I said, that is early Thursday morning. And in fact, Mr. Decker will bring some students from the chamber choir, and they're going to sing a couple of Christmas carols for us.
Is Brian Miller the only one that is attending?
No, there are 2 or 3 other legislators. I don't know that Senator Griffin was coming, but I think representative from his office is coming. We're still putting this year back. But we'll have a few here. And then lastly, our winter sports season is kicked off, so we have students participating in basketball, volleyball, baseball, and then a couple of other schools, gymnastics, wrestling, and indoor track. Lots going on. All right, and I think that is it for the old business.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to new business. I will read 7.1 through 7.14. Right, Maureen, no amendments? Okay. 7.1 is the appointment, is looking for the approval of the appointment of our school counselor for the guidance document. 7.2 is looking for the approval of an appointment of a teacher aide. 7.3 is looking for the approval of the appointment of a substitute teacher. 7.4 is looking for the approval of the appointment for another substitute teacher. 7.5 is looking for the approval of the appointment of a substitute teacher aide. 7.6 is looking for the approval of a lead teacher. 7.7 is looking for the approval of a permanent appointment of a custodian. 7.8 is looking for the approval of a resignation. 7.9 is looking for the approval of a substitute teacher. 7.10 is looking for the approval of revised reviewed policies. 7.11 is looking for the approval of our minutes from November 12th, 2024. 7.12 is looking for the approval of our treasurer's reports of balances. 7.13 is looking for the approval of a resolution authorizing payment of bills as approved by the claims auditor. 7.14 is looking for the approval of the Committee on Special Education recommendation. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Anybody? I have a question, Mr. Stevens, and this regulation was instituted after I retired, so I don't know the details of it. Do we actually need lead teachers for the 2 new, or at least, both of our 2 new employees? If both are veteran teachers with multiple years of guidance, experience, do we still need a mentor to pay that mentor? I don't, it's just a question I have. I know NICET and State Ed made that recommendation years ago. And I can understand that for a first year, second, third year teacher. But for someone who's taught in another district or been in a position for decades, now they come here, we need to appoint a teacher to mentor them. Do we have an option there?
Is it a requirement or?
Is it a requirement?
I believe we have options, but typically the lead teacher, it's not just a mentor, but it's also someone that activates them when we have someone move from one building to another. Because believe it or not, even though we're in the same district, there are a lot of different procedural occurrences that, you know, take place between one building and another. And a lot of that work is conducted just acclimating them to the building, the way things are run, the online systems, the paperwork, the forms, the scheduling. You guys can probably add the different nuances that new employees have to learn to the building, but I mean, is it required? I mean, it's, I think it's part of our contract.
It is. I have leave to speak.
Please,
Yes, it is currently part of our contract, and it is, Mr. Staton has done a great job describing the position. When you do have a brand new teacher coming on that first year, you have the full mentor, and that's what you're thinking of as we're guiding and teaching and coaching. But the lead teacher position, which is paid a different stipend, it's a lesser stipend, they are like their buddy system when they come in from a different district. So even though they are phenomenal teachers, coming there, phenomenal counselors, that mentor is someone who guides them in terms of our procedures, et cetera, and then getting them acclimated to the climate that is for, just providing them with that support system. And so that was part of our last contract negotiations, when we did that, to have that lead teacher be available for every new teacher who comes into our district.
So it's in
We're
the
thankful.
contract.
Sorry, say again?
It's
sir?
in the contract?
It is in the contract, yes.
Okay. Now, my other concern would be, we have department chair, we have department coordinators, whatever the title may be,
Content area.
content area
coordinators,
coordinators. I would think that that hat would cover the, not supervision, but the mentoring of a new employee.
There's different guidelines that are in place for that, but we certainly can have conversations with the district.
If I'm still on the board, we're gonna talk about that in negotiation.
I'm ready for it.
No, I'm saying, two people in the department, but then we gotta pay a mentor to mentor a new teacher. And I don't mean it in a negative way.
I hear you, sir.
So,
I hear you, sir. Thank
Okay,
you for,
thank
thank you for being a good community student.
thank you. And I have one more. Does anybody else have any questions?
Take my time, go ahead.
I don't have, I do not have a question, but I have a comment. I'm very sorry to see that we are losing Jill Summer, a phenomenal teacher, loved by every student I know that has had her. 17 years, if I'm not mistaken, is the number that she's been in this district. We are, it's our loss, we're sad to see her go. And wish her all the best. in the future endeavors.
Mr. Flack, I recruited Ashley Morat 15 years ago. And after several interviews, she told me no. I commend you. You brought in a good person. I think that Rome Free Academy connection had a little more clout than I had, right? And she was an outstanding candidate 15 years ago. And that's before she went to RFA, so I think she's probably even stronger now.
We've worked very closely together for a long time. I have great faith in her, and I think she's one of the things that.
I'm sure. Good decision. That's all I had. Mike, anything? Help me out, Mike. Okay. I need a motion to approve 7.1 through 7.14. Thank you. Ed, second. Mike,
How's that?
Mike, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, consent agenda is approved. Move on to miscellaneous topics.
I have a question.
Yes,
This
Paige.
just kind of popped into my mind, just kind of reviewing some of our, the items. I feel like, I don't remember how long ago this was, but we were having a conversation about the, system that's in place for substitute teachers and when a teacher needs a substitute. And I think there was some, just desire that we have something a little more easily accessible for the teachers. Do we know what kind of substitute policy we have in place? Like, I think I even talked with Allison about it, in terms of if a teacher needs a sub, how do they go about getting that sub? Are people making calls for that teacher? Is the teacher calling on their own? Do we have a system in place that's effective for the teachers, or how does that work?
So last year we explored an online option. It was part of our frontline package. There was another module on the system that we used, but from my understanding is that you correct me if I'm wrong, your building secretary didn't want to pursue that route because they do it on their own. And you know, kudos to them because they're up early some days just calling subs.
So if,
They have more control.
Yeah, so
over
if,
what's
so say a teacher hypothetically, they call at 4 o'clock in the morning, they can't come to work. So if it's in the elementary school, you are making calls and trying to find a substitute to come in?
I got an email at 3 o'clock this morning.
And you are okay with that?
No, I don't
So-
respond until usually like 6:30.
Okay,
So I remember, And obviously, I won't say who it was, but I remember a teacher just privately mentioning something to me, and she said, gosh, I really wish that we had something a little bit more, just something that's easier and something that's more fluent for all of these teachers in the event. I mean, obviously, something last minute is different, but I just wondered,
I can tell you, the problem we had with that is a lot of our substitutes are retired. They don't wanna be called, when the teacher puts it in that service, it starts calling those people at 5 o'clock in the morning. They don't want to get that call.
You said that service, is that frontline?
Yeah, we had
Okay.
it previously.
Okay.
They used to have it
Through BOCES, remember?
Frontline is BOCES though, yeah, it was called ASOP.
Okay.
And a lot of our subs are retired, and they said, I don't wanna be on that. So then, what do, you know?
Right.
I mean, can we look at some of the systems that other schools have in place, maybe see, I know Hannah, I don't know the name of it, but Hannah, where she substitute teaches up in Plattsburgh, it's an app.
I don't know if that's.
Right, that's what it was, it was an app.
For them, she said their school loves it.
I mean, obviously getting an alert that early in the morning, but also like, you know, if you're not getting these substitutes ahead of time because you know, oh, in a month I'm gonna need that day off, obviously. If you call in the morning, I mean, there's not really any way around that, but.
So help me understand this. So there's people in the portal who want to sub, but they don't want to be called to sub.
A lot of it is prearranged.
Is that what?
No,
is
a
that-
lot of them are prearranged.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if someone's sick and it's like, it's a
If
last
it's
minute thing.
right, then I usually, get a sub. But if they know they're gonna be out for an appointment or, take a personal day, they have special people that they like to call. And they will get that sub ahead of time, but if somebody calls in sick, then I'm usually the one that gets the sub for them in the morning. So then I
Mr.
start,
Melnicky, he's very,
right,
very famous.
right, so I start texting, 6:30, 7 o'clock, I have a whole list of,
Okay,
and
I just wonder if there's something easier than that. There's some kind of, I don't know.
And another
A
problem with that,
text
Katie, is
alert
when they don't get filled, if somebody's not available to take the job, because there's, people in there, then we still have to find the person anyway. So it's kind of just easier for us to,
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why, cause I thought we're like, substitute teacher, substitute teacher aide, so then, I don't know, just kind of sparked something, I was like, I wonder.
Some of the substitutes mainly are interns. We see them here a lot.
Okay,
Are
So
we
they really
short
do not-
substitute teachers?
I was just gonna tell you how many I texted this morning.
Okay.
Yes.
And
we
were
are.
you able to find someone?
Yes, but I had to pull. I had to pull somebody from one thing and put somebody else in another spot. Yeah, it's like you work your magic, that's what everybody says.
Right.
And you work your magic and,
Yeah.
And a
and
lot of
and I
times
book my
you-
Bible.
Some of the times when they do this, if they don't submit the paperwork, I can't come on the list.
Right.
Oh, so you're
Some
saying
of
we're
them are
approving,
not.
they're contingent
Yeah,
upon.
Correct.
They
They have to
Jane,
fill
all
out,
these.
right, they have to fill out all these other papers, and if they don't fill those other papers out, they're not on the list.
What's the, just give me like a ballpark figure, of how many substitutes we have versus how many we would like to have? Are we like super short?
It's the problem is some only wanna do high school, middle school, some wanna just do elementary.
Right.
That's a lot, a problem too.
Right.
And some, some of them are college kids, like your daughter, for
Like
instance,
Hannah,
and,
yeah.
if we knew, what their availability was, we could.
Right.
So Betty Marie said she'll print the list and bring it to the.
And you could do.
I just I saw all of these items and it just kind of got my wheels turning a little bit, I was just wondering.
So to answer your question though, a lot of the schools in the region do use the BOCES sub-college service. And as I said, that will have to be explored and. Good question.
Good, man. Anybody else? I need a motion to adjourn for executive. Oh, public participation.
Any public?
Any questions? Okay, now I need a motion to adjourn for executive session to discuss negotiation. Negotiation.
Really got Mike, the one, and Ron.
Ron, second. Mr. Beck?
The other mic.
Who's our second?
No,
I-
it's,
oh,
it's,
Mike Brown.
Okay,
it's inside your phone.
all in favor?
Okay.
With that.